We are live, so everything you say will be recorded. Sitting in my room, I used for taking
Yeah.
I don't. Oh, I cannot wait. What are you, Lexi? Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts. I love it.
None of the above.
I'm just saying, random Halloween costume I keep in my closet for emergency.
You know what?
Oh yeah, I have TikToks. Halloween costumes.
Oh, no, I do.
That is terrifying.
I know, that is scary.
At least I'm not the only one, so.
I can't see that far, so I just thought that was like,
Oh no, I have a very bad habit of like.
Oh,
I saw the ears. I saw the ears. I was trying to get it.
Yeah, no, that's.
That's scary.
So just because someone's wearing blue doesn't mean it's
No,
No, I saw the sharp ears.
I was Harley Quinn for Halloween last year, and I said my was like
Easy. Senator Weinert today.
it says like
Oh god.
yes. I know. Sorry. Like the actual shirt that she has.
She took my.
You know, I'm just saying.
They're matching though.
No, literally.
I went to Babe like this no more. I went to Babe like this. Yes, I had to.
Wait, there's people.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Oh.
So actually, I made
Meeting to order, roll call. Senator Amson. Here. Senator Baker. Senator Bissonnette.
Here.
Senator Bouchard. Here. Senator Brown. Senator Brown. Senator Day.
Here.
Senator Desai. Senator Godick.
Here.
Senator Gilmartin.
Here.
Senator Holman.
Here.
Senator Hunt.
Present.
Senator Kilday.
Here.
Senator Lipscomb.
Here.
Senator Lemieux.
Here.
Senator Lucier.
Here.
Senator McKiernan.
Yeah.
Senator Miller. Senator Piacenza.
Here.
Senator Scorpa.
Here.
Senator Shmorad.
Here.
Senator Silver.
Here.
Senator Stearns. Senator Thapa.
Here.
Senator Thurston.
Here.
Senator Weiner. Chairperson Amaya.
Here.
Chairperson Cloutier.
Here.
Chairperson Greenwood.
Here.
Chairperson Peralt.
Present.
Secretary Bronson.
Here.
Vice President Souza.
Here.
President Kaufman.
Present. I can't breathe with that on, so we're gonna take that off. All right, welcome back,
Fix your
everyone.
hair. There
Okay,
you go.
There you go, yeah.
thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's participating in our little annual Halloween dress down. I love all the costumes that I'm seeing around the room. So, thank you for getting festive with us. We'll just go ahead and get started with the acceptance of minutes. So at this time, I move to accept the minutes from the 10/8/2024 meeting.
Second.
Hearing a second, are there any additions, revisions, deletions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Next, we'll be doing the minutes from the 10/2022 meeting. So I move to accept the minutes from 10/2022/2024.
Second.
Hearing a second, are there any additions or revisions or deletions? Seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. All right, now we're gonna move into new and existing business. The first thing up on the agenda is a dance and cheer safety discussion. So the reason why we're having this discussion today is because 2 weeks ago now, at the Golden Bear weekend, there was a cheerleader who did unfortunately get injured. And after having conversations with both the leadership of dance and cheer, we wanted to give them the opportunity to have the floor today and have a more in-depth conversation about it. I did also mention at the end of the last meeting, but just because of the timeline with it, we wanted to push it to this week so people were more prepared to talk about it. I do want to say, like, from what I understand, nobody is upset that the injury happened. Injuries happen all the time, especially with things like that. It was mainly just the response. And I am happy to say that working with Greg Matthews, and then I know the cheer team has been working with Caitlin Bevins to make sure that there are safety measures in place. That way they feel safe when they're doing their stunts. So there is progress. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but I'm not going to take up any more time. I want to hand the floor off to either a representative from dance or cheer if they would like to speak on it.
I can start. So as some of you might know, I'm on the executive board of the cheer team. I've been on the cheer team my entire 4 years here. And something that's like definitely very different about our cheer team here is that we've never had a coach in my entire time here. And to my understanding, I don't think the program has ever had a coach before I was here either. So coaching is obviously a very big part of ensuring safety. And luckily with our club sport budget, we were able to request a stipend for a coach. So we are in the process of hiring a coach. But until then, we have spoken with like Bridget and Kate Bevins about that, and some safety precautions that we're looking into are, as I'm sure you've heard, there's some conversations surrounding us having mats to be safe in practice. And then in terms of learning how to stunt safely, obviously the people who are on the e-board are usually voted in based on like their experience and their leadership, which is all good and well, but that's not enough to necessarily always ensure safe stunting. And while like I'm confident that the e-board right now is like knows what we're doing with all that stuff, we aren't certified coaches, and I can't guarantee that anytime in the future, like it would be all 4 people would know how to safely stunt. So we kind of made this decision before even going into the meeting with Kate Bevins, and luckily everyone was on the same page when we had this meeting. We are on a mini hiatus from stunting until we can get some safety protocols solidified, but we were just like mainly looking for like a way, which we've also talked to Greg Matthews about this too, but a way to like ensure we can get a fast response to an injury that happens, whether it be at practice or at a game. Because at this game, like as noted, there was a lot of people there because it was the Golden Bear weekend, so it was like family, friends, homecoming, open house. There was a lot of people there, and one of my teammates, she ended up getting a very serious knee injury that did end up taking her out for the season, unfortunately. And there was no response until probably about, I would say, obviously timeline's a little skewed because none of us were looking at our phones, but I would guess about 15 minutes we were waiting for a response, which with there being even like EMTs, public safety, the trainers, athletic staff was a little bit concerning to us because and it's like the e-board of dance or the e-board of cheer, and I believe dance e-board even came to help us too, but like the e-boards of these clubs, which are students, which again, going back to like we aren't certified in anything like that. We were the ones responding to this injury until we were able to just like finally get people to come over, which we want to, like, we don't fully know what we're doing in terms of first aid, but we had to help because we had to get her off the field. We had to respond in some way and get her the help she needs. We aren't able to do that to like the best extent as someone who's like a paramedic or an athletic trainer would be able to do. So we are just like really looking for things like that. And I know I've heard many situations, which Emily could definitely talk about later, like where dance has had injuries in practice and neither of our teams have access to ice, trainers, getting taped, getting wrapped, anything like that during practice or for a game, because we're not under athletics, we're under like club sports, which is like student activities. So we're really just looking for a solution in terms of like making sure people could help us when we're injured. As Cam stated, that injury wasn't related to anyone's experience, anyone's negligence, anything like that. As many of you know, if you've ever played a sport, injuries just happen and they cannot be controlled. So nobody's mad about the fact that it was injured on our team or from what I understand outside, but it's just we want a way to make sure that like that injury gets responded to quicker, so that, like, to avoid the hassle and honestly the showcase it kind of put on, because people were watching us and coming up to us that like didn't know us. They were like family members and parents and guardians and friends that aren't a member of our team and weren't a direct member of this girl's family. So it was just almost a little bit embarrassing too, that like we were having to deal with this in front of so many people. That's my main piece for now, unless anyone has any questions.
Would you like to?
Sure. So, I'm Emily. I am the current president of the dance team. I'm a junior, so this is my third year on the team. And since like the moment that I stepped into the university and I joined the team, we were told that we don't have access to ice. Even in the case of a severe emergency, the trainer cannot touch us. No one is allowed to come in and help us. We have to call 911 and we wait there until someone comes, even though there's a trainer right down the hall that could help ease the pain. But we are just kind of left with us to figure it out. And I would say that is probably my main concern, because obviously like even just a little bit of ice could help someone's discomfort so much while we wait for someone to come. And the fact that like we aren't able to get that for ourselves is highly concerning. We've had last year our president, her boyfriend was on the football team, so luckily she would go and find him in the HLC and he would go get us ice. And even though we kind of found a loophole, I feel like that should not even have to exist. It's also kind of another slap in the face when I talk to like my classmates and everything who are athletes, and they tell me that they go to the ice machine that they use for like ice packs and everything, and they use that ice to fill up their water bottles so that they have ice cold water during their practice, but we're not even allowed ice in case we get hurt. Also, we have a little waiver that like we understand that like we have to sign a waiver, but one part of it says, even though the claim and liability may arise out of the negligence or carelessness on the part of the university or any third party, whether foreseen or unforeseen, known or unknown, we are not allowed to like go any further. So even though like the university acknowledges that they may be negligent, especially because there's still a leak in the aerobics room that has been there since before even I was a freshman, and we put in numerous work orders, and it's literally right in the middle where we practice, so there's water leaking routinely during practice, where we could slip or fall, and if we do in that case, we're not allowed to go get ice or anything like that. And I would just say like I came from a pretty small studio, and even like then like they provided us ice packs, they provided tape if we needed it in case of emergencies, because when you're dancing hours and hours on end, like we all have chronic pain, and like we all bring our own tape just in case like, we can sense like we're gonna have some sort of injury happening. But if we're in the middle of practice and like our back starts acting up and like it starts like tweaking, like we should be able to go just get tape. Like we know how to tape ourselves. Like all of our teachers have taught us in the past because it happens. And also like speaking on like the cheer incident, I would say like me and one of the choreographers, we were continuously asking people in the stands to go find someone, and I know at least 2 people went to go find someone within while we were sitting there. And they even said that no one was listening and no one was really showing any care, even though like that is a student of the university. And even on our last game, while we were waiting for our music to turn on, we hear from the stands someone shouting, basically saying that if someone gets hurt, someone better be out there, which is honestly just kind of embarrassing for the university, especially because a lot of dancers hoping to join the dance team, they go to these games, especially ones that I know because I'm from a studio nearby, to see what it's like, to see how the dance team does. And if they hear that, that could potentially deter their interest of joining this dance team, especially because many dance teams are covered under athletics and are given safety precautions because it is a strenuous sport. And sometimes, you know, injuries happen. I've been injured. I hurt my knee last year and I couldn't even walk, and I wasn't allowed to like go get ice. I just kind of had to sit there and watch everyone practice while I had a knee and I couldn't even straighten my leg. And my coach ended up actually bringing in an ice pack that I could use routinely because she knew like if something were to happen, if something were to come up during our recital, like I would just be like stuck with a really bad knee that I couldn't walk on. So that's all.
There,
Another thing that like Emily kind of touched on, but that like I know personally from my own experience and from my teammates' experiences, pretty much everything Emily said like is what happens with both teams. Unfortunately, we like receive a lot of the same treatment, backlash, whatever words you would want to use to describe the situation. But we have to spend either out of pocket money to buy like the ice packs, like the ones you squeeze and pop, or like KT tape, athletic tape and pre-wrap. Like we spend either out of pocket money or our budget money, which I understand. Like since we're a club and like we have the ability to spend this money, like, but at the same time, all of the sports are being given these things and they're being able to be treated by a trainer, and we're having to spend our own money out of pocket to bring ourselves stuff like KT tape, ice packs, all sorts of stuff like that, where like we're only allowed to treat ourselves and each other, which kind of brings it back to the point of like technically, yes, through years of experience, we did learn how to tape ourselves because many of us have been doing this since we were like children, but we're not trained in how to like tape at the way an athletic trainer would be. So it's not going to be as safe or as like technical as it would be if a professional staff member were helping us. So like having to be the ones to treat ourselves and spend our own money on these things to be able to treat ourselves like could potentially lead to further injury since we're potentially not doing it correctly. Because again, like a YouTube video or a Google thing or like even the directions inside the box are good enough, but they aren't to the same degree as someone who got an education in this field.
are there any other questions, comments, statements? Yeah.
I do want to address it. So when one of the cheerleaders got hurt with her elbow, I did go and talk to her and see what the situation was going on, and she said that she couldn't get treated by the trainers. So I went and talked to the trainers, and they said that they wouldn't mind helping, but it's in their contract that like they legally like can't touch you guys or they can't give you ice, which I do think that is pretty dumb because like you guys can still get hurt, and I did bring that up. And we're also, like you said, buying KT tape. We also have to buy our own KT tape because in the trainers, like we're so low on tape that some of the trainers are going out and buying KT tape just for the athletes because the training, however money they get is so low that like I've been talking to Jen Collins and she's asking me through the athletic rep what the trainers specifically need because their budget is so low. They don't even have enough stuff to cover the teams they have, and they are extremely overworked. And I know like getting you guys in there would be such a big help, but like in their contract is also harder. And when it comes to the leak, we are trying to help with that. There's also a leak in the wrestling room that leaks onto our brand new mats that we got through WNE Gives. So there's a couple leaks we're trying to fix. There's also a leak in the women's room as to like the locker room. We're also trying to get that fixed. So all these points have came up to Jen Collins at some point or another. So I don't want you guys to think that they haven't been brought up because they definitely have been brought to Jen.
Thank you for saying that too. Like we are aware that a lot of these have been brought to Jen, and I think this might be part of like a bigger conversation that maybe we could either like have later. I don't want to like sidetrack this conversation. But like I've heard that same thing about the athletic trainers, and I don't think it's fair to the athletic teams either. So like we should definitely look into at some point trying to figure out either someone who doesn't like who is specifically just for club sports who has a different contract. That could be a good one, or even just hire like figuring out a way to like get another athletic trainer in there, and that way like any of them can treat club sports as well. But honestly, like while cheer and dance have had the most recent situations with this, I'm also aware and like under the impression from other things I've heard that ultimate frisbee, rugby, club volleyball also are all having similar issues. They're not seeing as many like the injuries that dance and cheer have had were just coincidentally recent, so that's what this conversation is. But also like there's a lot of other club sports that are also at one point or another either have already or are not good would hopefully not, but potentially going to face these issues soon. So definitely like looking into that for all club sports, like whether it's just again a specific trainer for just the club sports or another one or something. Because I do feel bad for those trainers that they're having to like be so overworked and having to spend their own money. But like at the same time too, like those athletes and club sport athletes all need to be treated. So it's a weird situation.
To kind of bounce off of that too, this is not the first time we've addressed this as a Senate. We did do it last term. It was a lot more brief though, because I believe it came up in a senator's report. And it was exactly what Michaela or Vice President Souza just highlighted with the club sports not having access to stuff like that. I believe it was the Frisbee team or the volleyball team that originally made a complaint about it. So again, this is something that has been ongoing. I do want to assure you all that specifically myself and Vice President Souza are working to try and come up with solutions and work in line with Caitlin Bevins, Greg Matthews, Jen Collins, our athletic reps, anyone that is a key person of interest, just so situations like this don't happen again in the future. The thing that really struck me was the lack of like plans. And if someone gets hurt, like it's just not acceptable to just not have a plan and to just be like everything's going to be fine. Which is what it kind of felt like it was after talking with both the cheer and dance executive teams. Like they just felt like they were just sent out there to do their thing. And if an injury happened, oh well, which is just not acceptable. And there's multiple parties that agree that isn't acceptable, and we're working on solutions for it instead of just sitting here and talking about the problem. So did you want to?
I just had a question. I'm not on any sports at the school, but does health services offer anything that could be of aid to that?
I could answer that. Health services treats every student. So yes, technically, if I got an injury at cheer, like the next morning, I could go in at like, or I could do like the after hours call, just like any other student could for any reason, which is a helpful thing that like we have had to utilize in the past. But like at the same, it's not like a specific thing set aside for club sports or recreational clubs or anything like that. It's simply just like the regular health services like that they offer for all students that we could take advantage of, which usually results in if you call them, they're going to tell you to call public safety or like EMS. If you're calling them at midnight, there's usually something that like they can't really take care of anyways, because if it's that dire of a thing that you're calling in the middle of the night, they wouldn't be able to handle it in their office regardless, kind of thing. And usually club sports have like later practices, so no one's in the health services office because we're all, I would say, like as a general statement, like after 5 to 6 p.m. until like 10 or 11 p.m. is like when all the club sports typically practice, much like other athletes. And then there was one more thing too that I wanted to bring up actually about like a point that you just mentioned. In terms of response time, something I've noticed that specifically from that game is public safety was aware of the issue from what we've been told. And what we've been told is that they just like walked and took their time to get there because they were like, it'll be fine. Like, that's not a big deal. And they like knew, and like someone like ran to get them and they were like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute, and just slow walked their way over to like an emergency injury situation. So I think there's like a lot of parties that like, for lack of a better word, failed in that situation to respond, whether that be like public safety. Now knowing obviously athletics couldn't have done anything, but like I think there was just a lot of like things that were set up that could have helped us that were never put into place to actually help us that day. So
I will say, a lot of the dance team did actually see public safety just like strolling into the game. My parents were also in the stands, and they also saw public safety just taking a casual stroll. So I feel as though a lot of other friends and family also saw that, and definitely were very concerned as to why there's some girl that can't walk and why public safety is just taking a leisurely stroll through the field with no sense of emergency or anything.
I will say too, like, we also don't know what exactly was communicated to them. So like, as Vice President Souza did say, like, there's a lot of parties that are at fault here. We don't know who was saying what to who, but ultimately, we need to have better procedures in place. And I'm going to commit right now to working until everyone is satisfied with the measures that are taken, on all sides. Doesn't matter who's involved with what. We need to make sure that people feel safe, that nobody feels like they're going to lay on the ground in agony in the middle of a sports game when they're doing what I consider to be a service to our campus community. So, are there any final questions or comments about this? Yes.
Would assigning a coach for them help them to get like under the athletic department so they can get the faster help, because anything physical has its own dangers. So cheer and dance should go under the athletics.
We've had a coach for the past 27 years plus. It's been the same one. And like she's been trying to reach out for us too, but it still doesn't.
Yeah, and also just a little context, because I know you are a new senator and there's a lot of new senators here. In the past, typically with our club sports, like I know club volleyball, ultimate frisbee, and rugby never used to be a part of Senate. They were two separate entities, so they were housed under athletics and their rec department. And as our athletic rep mentioned, when funding got extremely tight in athletics, those were the first to go, obviously, because athletics priority is their varsity sports. I was not in this role at the time, but my predecessor ultimately created the club sport level within Senate, so that way, as a student body, we weren't just letting these student groups go unfunded. So even if they do have a coach, the reason why they are with Senate and likely will have to stay with Senate for the foreseeable future ultimately comes down to funding.
I will also say, coming from someone who works with the rec department and plays intramurals, like we've had issues too in the past where we've had people get hurt, and like we've tried to say, oh, we can go get a trainer, but if they're not a student athlete, we can't have them go to that. So that's where we have to then result to the case of having to go and get public safety and call public safety for it. And the fact that all of the officials for intramurals have to deal with like people possibly getting injured. Like I had someone on my court a few years ago dislocate their shoulder, like, and we couldn't have them like go and get a trainer as they're not involved with athletics, nothing like that. And public safety took their sweet time to get there. And we also had the same case with one of my teammates playing, like tearing like a ligament in their leg. So it's just the fact of everyone needs to be vigilant with safety, and it happens even at the intramural level, but you just gotta be mindful that it does happen.
An easier way to like explain it is they are under athletics, but under as a club and only varsity sports. So the list of varsity sports have access to trainers. So they are under athletics, but in the club section and not the varsity section. So that's why they don't have access to the trainers, because they're under club and not varsity, if that helps.
Okay. In the interest of time, we are going to have to move on. But again, I want to reiterate that we will continue to work with all parties involved until there are measures in place and people feel safe performing, and specifically with dance and cheer. But thank you for coming, and thank you, Vice President Souza, for talking about it from the cheer perspective as well. Next, we're going to move into the National First Generation College Student Day event, and I'm going to hand the floor to Treasurer Pearl.
At this time, I make the recommendation that Student Senate sponsor the National First Generation College Student Event with an allocation of $1,462.
So moved.
Second.
All right, hearing a second, I'll allocate 6 minutes to this conversation, and I'm going to keep the floor. So we received a request from JP, from the Student Hub, as well as the members of the committee for the National First Generation College Student Day to help fund the event. We received an initial request of $3,050, and that was for a quick start breakfast from Aramark for $10.59 a person. They quoted it originally for 200 people. Buttons, I'm First WNE logos on them for $300 at 69 cents a piece for $207. Notebooks, 300 of them at $2 each for $600. An afternoon all-campus event, with a raffle basket for with WNE gear from the bookstore for $125. The difference between Treasurer Peralt's allocation and their request is the amount for food. We recommend just dropping the amount down from 200 to 50 people, because with the 200 people, it's an amount of $2,118, which is significantly more than any of our clubs will ever see in a year. We just thought that was a little unreasonable. I have gone to some of these events, but not for a while, and there was not 200 people at them. But I do know that there are some students who do definitely deserve to feel supported as first generation students and have resources like this, as well as the buttons and notebooks, 300 each of those. We are hoping that any of them that don't go at these events will be used for year to year. So we were estimating like 100 per year, and then anything 100 per year, and then after that you can come back to Senate, and then we can possibly sponsor more. So then that'd be 100 per year for the next 3 years. Are there any questions or comments about that? I do know we have Kulu Sharp here. Would you like to speak on the event at all, or?
So I think the number came from the fact that we currently have something like 30% of the student population are first gen. So this is the first time we've done an event like this, and obviously we don't know how many people are going to show up. So we were going on using that 30% and assuming that the bulk of those individuals would show up. That's where those numbers came from. We are reaching out to other departments across campus and also off campus to see if we can get donations to really kind of make this a celebratory day and event. So we appreciate what is being given. Obviously, if we could get more, that would be great. But I'm also here to answer any questions that people may have about the event or why we're choosing to do it on November 8th and any you may have.
Any questions or comments? The floor is open. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Senator Amsden,
Yes.
Senator Baker,
Yes.
Senator Bissonnette,
Yes.
Senator Bouchard,
Yes.
Senator Brown,
Yes.
Senator Brown,
Yes.
Senator Day,
Yes.
Senator Desai,
Yes.
Senator Godick,
Yes.
Senator Gilmartin,
Yes.
Senator Holman,
Yes.
Senator Hunt,
Yes.
Senator Kilday,
Yes.
Senator Lipscomb,
Yes.
Senator Lemieux,
Yes.
Senator Lucier,
Yes. Yes.
Senator McKiernan,
Yes.
Senator Miller, Senator Piacenza,
Yes.
Senator Scorpa, Senator Shmorad, Senator Silver, Senator Stearns, Senator Thapa, Senator Thurston,
Yes.
Senator Weiner, Vice President Souza,
Yes.
President Kaufman,
Yes.
21-0-0.
With 21 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, motion passes. $1,462. Thank you. And we definitely hope the event is successful, and good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move into club constitution amendments. I'm going to hand the floor off to Chairperson Amaya.
At this time, I make the recommendation for the Student Senate to recognize and accept the revisions of the WNE Robotics Constitution.
So moved.
Second.
During a second, I'll allocate 4 minutes to this conversation. The floor.
Okay. So yeah, formerly known as FIRST Robotics, they were specifically just created and designed to help high school students with the FIRST Robotics competition. However, they updated their constitution to kind of realign what they currently want to do, which is just do robotics in general. Instead of specifically helping high school students, they're going to focus just more on the general robotics. And I'd like to pass the floor on to the representative of the club to talk more about it.
Hello, I'm the president of the Robotics Club. I've been on the club this past year, and so it was kind of like a smaller club, and there wasn't much interest in helping out like high school teams because it was so small. And so this year, we kind of wanted to readjust what we're going to do with the club. So we're focusing more on teaching students more about robotics, how to use 3D printers, some of the machining we have in our lab, and also just kind of work on building our own robots for ourselves rather than assisting the high school teams.
Floor is open for any questions or comments. Yes.
Hello, I'm Kalpit Soni. I'm a guide for this club. I want to add a little bit more on this. So this year we are our plan which shift from first robotics to in general robotics, WNE robotics, is because of we don't want to limit ourselves for first robotics. We want to expand our vision to max. Even we want to we want to create a community for robotics in general in our university. That's why we are changing from first robotics to WNE robotics for like representing our team, our university in field of robotics. So that is what I want to add into this.
Can both of you state your names for the sake of the minutes, please?
Natalie Lessard.
What was your last name?
Lessard, Lessard.
And you?
Kalpit Soni, KLPID.
Can you repeat that one more time?
KALPID, SONI, Soni.
Get it in the memo.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Congratulations to WNE Robotics. Next, we will move into club constitutional amendments for the STEP team. I'll hand the floor off to Chairperson Maya.
Thanks. At this time, I make the recommendation for the Student Senate to recognize and accept the revisions of the Golden Stepless Constitution.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a second, I'll allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. The floor is yours.
Right, so their revisions is basically creating a new constitution. They were increased to a club sport level. So this is just updating that to reflect that change. They also added additional executive board positions, a manager, co-manager, and marketing. They also added a fundraising committee since all club sports are required to put on a fundraising event. I believe every semester, yes, just wanted to confirm that. And yeah, I'd like to pass the floor off to a representative of STEP team to talk a little bit more about it.
Mercedes, I'm the captain. You may say one is like sport, there's a lot of performances this semester. This semester we performed 3 times. I plan on having one this Saturday and another one with AIC. And then next semester we have a lot with AIC. We have our own showcase. There was like a lot going on, so we wanted to do episodes on club sport. We also have community service they want to start, and we want to like at least have like the same level kind of thing. So, anything else on that?
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion one abstention, motion passes. Congratulations to the STEP team. Next, we're going to move into club creations, and I'll hand the floor off to Chairperson Amaya.
At this time, I make the recommendation for the Student Senate to recognize and accept the Motorsports Club.
So moved.
Second.
During a second, I'll allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so this club has been attempting to gain recognition since March of 2024. However, there were some concerns with the creation of the club, but that has been resolved working with Caitlin Bevins, and such. They have a lot of awesome ideas for, I'm not too sure if it's starting this semester, you guys can correct me on that, but they definitely have some great ideas such as a car show, car washes, learning basic vehicle maintenance and things such as that nature. Like I said, I'd like to hand it off to the representative to just talk more about your plans and such.
Absolutely. So I'm the president of the club. My name is Danielle Demore. We basically wanted to create a fun and safe community for everybody that's interested in any motorsport category. We just want to bring everybody together and host really fun events. We feel like that there isn't enough recognition, and the recognition that the motorsports community does get is not great, and it's not a safe community in other places. And we wanna change that and host fun events and just get everybody together and expand their knowledge.
Any questions or comments? Senator Brown.
So I heard that you're gonna plan like a car show. Hypothetically, would you also plan a bike show?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yes. I should clarify that. Yes, so we do wanna host car, bike, truck, anything that you can legally transport to the school. We definitely wanna do that. I myself am a huge motorcycle enthusiast. I race and ride all types of bikes, so I definitely agree with that, and that's absolutely gonna happen.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Congratulations to you guys. I can't wait to see all you do on our campus. Next, we're going to move into initial budget allocations, and starting with the Association for Computer Machinery. I'll hand the floor off to Treasurer Peralta.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the Association for Computer Machinery receive a level A allocation of $500.
So moved.
Second.
During a second, I'll allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. The floor is yours.
So there is no difference between my recommended amount and their requested amount. For the working budget last year, they spent $495 of their $500 allocation, so they only had 5 left, which is very impressive and definitely demonstrated their fiscal responsibility with their spending last year. The request for this year includes a skating event, a bowling event, Christmas celebration, and obviously computer parts. And yeah, overall, this is just, it's a pretty typical level A budget request, very reasonable and extremely fair for what we normally see.
All right, the floor is open for questions or comments. Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Next, the Pre-Pharmacy Club. I'll hand the floor back up to you.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the Pre-Pharmacy Club receive a level A allocation of $524.88.
So moved.
Second.
During a second, 3 minutes added.
Once again, there is no difference between my recommended amount and their requested amount. For their working budget last year, they spent $250 of their $500, so that means $250 went unspent. Main reason for that includes kind of keyboard shifts and changes in plans of events for this coming year. And going along with that, the request for this year includes supplies for events that they will be hosting in November, January, February, and May. And similar to the budget we just saw, this is a pretty typical level A budget request.
All right, are there any questions or comments about that? Seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Next, we'll move to Women in Business, and the floor is yours.
At this time, I make the recommendation that Women in Business receive a level A allocation of $250.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a second, 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
So there is a $250 difference between their recommended amount and my requested amount. The reason for that being last year as a level A club with their $500 allocation, they spent 0 of that. So kind of what we normally do when clubs face situations like that is we'll typically for the next year cut their allocation in half. And even though they are getting half of their original request for this year, I am still confident that they will still be able to do the events that they want to do. One of those being a LinkedIn and networking event that they were looking to purchase food for, and then still to be determined, but they were looking to do another event in the spring semester as well, purchasing food and shirts. And I did ahead of time let their executive board members know that should they go through this $250, they're more than welcome to come back to Senate and ask us for an additional allocation.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
One abstention, motion passes. Next step team, the floor is yours.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the step team receive a club sport allocation of $1,322.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a second, I'll after this conversation, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So there is no difference between my recommended amount and their requested amount. For their working budget last year, they spent $974 of their level B allocation of $1,500. For the new senators in the room, step team used to be a level A club, but last year moved them up to B, given that their membership and the importance of what they've been doing has definitely grown significantly over the past couple of years. Obviously, today with them becoming a club sport, I think that's even more indicative of that. And their request for this year includes performance jerseys and cargo pants, basically getting them uniforms similar to how both the cheer team and the dance team also have uniforms. And as per our Student Senate Club sport policy, they did indicate their plans for fundraising both during the fall semester and the spring semester. They're currently estimating about $100 of revenue per fundraiser. And given that our step team will not be competing as of yet against other step teams, they're not mandated to collect dues, and ultimately they decided not to, which is also in line with our club sport policy. And also given that this is their first year, they chose not to stipend their coach, which again completely complies with our club sport policy. And yeah, I don't have anything else.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
Abstention, motion passes. Congratulations to those 4 clubs on getting their initial allocations. I can't wait to see what all of you guys do with those. Next, we're going to move into visitors' comments. Are there any visitors' comments at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move into reports. For our executive reports, I'll start with the finance committee chair.
Thank you. So this past Thursday, I sent out an email to all of our club and organization presidents, as well as posted in the student leadership Kodiak, the same message. And I know I mentioned this during our last meeting, but just as another reminder, the social media account registration form is due this Thursday, the 31st, by the end of day midnight. And then subsequently, the student involvement club and organization monthly report is due by the end of day Friday at 5 p.m. And any clubs who do not complete those will have their budgets frozen temporarily at the student senate meeting on November 5th until those clubs have done that. Obviously, for like new clubs that were created today, don't worry, that will not necessarily apply to you. So that was my first thing to report. And then second thing, now that we have the motorsports club created, I will be reaching out to you guys to kind of give you information on what we need to do to get your budget set up. So be on the lookout for that in the coming days. That's all I have to report.
Great. Moving on to the legislative committee.
Yeah, I don't have much to report. However, yesterday the legislative committee met for their first ever meeting, and we addressed 20 clubs that are in need of revision/updates. The oldest from 2011 and the latest being from 2021. So we are being tasked with contacting these executive boards to make sure that we have the most up-to-date constitution. So please keep an eye out for that in the coming term.
Next, campus relations.
The only thing that I have to report is that last Friday, me and President Kaufman met with Dave Rosinski and Steve Roberts, who's a landscaper, on the site of the garden project that we're gonna be working on, and we discussed some things like removing trees, creating more permanent paths in that area, adding new growth, adding lighting in the trees, things like that. So I'll be reaching out to the CR committee to talk about some ideas, and Steve Roberts is working on some designs and quotes, so that's something exciting to look forward to.
Moving on to the public relations committee.
So my main thing is with the public safety meet and greet, there have been some complications. We wanted to move the event to the 14th of November, but that date is no longer available for Ally and Bear and other reasons. It's just not going to work. So we have two options pretty much. One is to move it to the 12th, which would be earlier on pretty soon. My only issue is we're looking to do Bear trading cards, and there is a chance we could not get them in time for that event. So that's something to consider. And there's also I have to talk to Cap about this actually, but we're looking to either do it like as a thing with stress relief maybe, and that would be December 5th or 2nd, I believe, off the top of my head. So that's later in the semester. So I'd like to ask your guys' opinions if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Floor is open, yes.
As one of the CAP people at this table, I think that we are looking for like other clubs to collaborate with for stress relief. So if you did want to do that, I think that would be great. But yeah, just send me an email if that's what we decide.
Yes.
I would just say that I think the Bear trading cards are a big motivator for a lot of people. So,
I mean, yeah, can I?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
So I would love to do those. That's why I wanted to push the event in the first place. I'd also am looking to do a lot of club collaborations, so that like really is what I'm aiming towards, and that's my opinion on the matter. But I did just want to put that out there for everybody else to say.
I vote the second.
Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none, there you go.
As long as Cap is cool with it, I'll work with you. Yep.
Okay,
Oh yeah, you all.
There's three of us here.
all right. Next, we're going to move into our liaison / special committee reports for the academic secretary.
Yeah, so I don't have a ton to report. Obviously, I sent everyone the longest GroupMe message that you will ever receive about 2 weeks ago. But just to reiterate for everybody, I had a lovely meeting with the registrar about 2 weeks ago, going over all the advising week information as well as priority registration. So I think his biggest concern was that people are not checking University Post or the sidebar in Kodiak that gives you this kind of direct information about how registration works. So they've been kind of flooded over the past few semesters with emails that are where the general information is already out and about. So Student Senate, myself included, is kind of a direct resource for that. So I was hoping to work with Kat to be able to put out some nice little Canva posters out there of all the important dates coming up for spring registration, winter registration, things like that. As you should know, advising week is upon us. So make sure that you're reaching out to your faculty advisors to get all of your planning and your courses approved. Otherwise, you will not be able to register during your date and time, which are out in self-service as well. Make sure that, parking tickets for people that don't like to park in the right place are paid, that your bill for this semester is paid as well. Otherwise, you will have a hold. And also make sure to update your emergency and proxy information as well, or you will still have a hold and not be able to register. So that's all I have. But I also have a meeting coming up with the registrar again this Friday. So if anybody has any specific comments or concerns that you want me to bring to them, I will. And also a special little shout out to them as well. This week, from now until Friday, they'll be having a table at University Commons on the first floor from 12 to 2. If you have any questions or need help with any registration or finding classes that will fit into our current GURs for your major and everything. So they'll be having one of those this week as well as during priority registration as well.
Did you have a question? Yes.
When you meet with them, would you mind asking
can you register with a Bursar hold on your account?
So, in terms of what?
In terms of registering?
Like a hold as in for your tuition or for like tickets or something that personal we could talk about later?
Let's not get too into detail.
Yeah, so no, unless you specifically reach out to them. I know sometimes they have the ability to manually take off the hold depending on the situation. So if you need help with that and it's a personal matter and not just a general matter, I would go to student enrollment and talk to the bursar's office.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other last second questions?
Would you know like anything about like health services holds? Like what does that mean? Cause like it says like health service hold, but it doesn't have like a component or like some mentees have that.
So if it's a health service hold, I would assume that it has something to do with the student insurance that the university requires. So you have to contact them.
Typically, the health services hold has to do with like paperwork not being in. So that's more likely than not either like a vaccination record, or like a physical record from what I've been told as a peer advisor.
Like the paper you have to fill out for that, does that cover like yearly or is it like semesterally? So like is that for like athletics or like any type of like health record? You have to fill that out semesterally?
Yeah. So typically that goes out during the summertime going into fall. It's usually related to whether you have personal insurance or not because the university requires that you have specific updated vaccinations as well as insurance. So if you filled out that form that was sent out in the summer, it will cover you for the entire year and you won't have to reapply for anything. If you didn't, that's why you would have a hold. And then if your vaccinations are expiring, that could also be covered as well.
We're gonna move into senators' comments. Are there any senators' comments? Yes.
I just wanted to say there is a class of 2027 event this Friday from 8 to 10 in the campus center, the downstairs portion. We're going to have games, raffles. It's like a fall festival theme. And also we'll be having donations for the Gray House. So bring non-perishable Thanksgiving themed goods.
Yes.
Just wanna mention Cupola Yearbook will be having their Spooky Spectacular event on Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. and that'll be taking place over in the Campus Center A and Campus Center B. So feel free to dress up in your costumes that you're in now. There will be a costume contest as well as free food and some cool little giveaways that we do have as well.
Yes.
Since we might have an extra couple minutes, I would love if some of you could stay for my TikTok. Anyone in costume, sorry.
Any other last second comments? Okay. Quick reminders, monthly reports are due this Sunday for you all, November 3rd. November 5th is our monthly report meeting. That meeting will be in the trustees room. We have our little Senate get-together event on November 6th in CSP 300. I hope to see you all there. And last but not least, yeah, if you have time to stick around for the photo. All right, now we'll move to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Remember what happened.
And you were delayed once, so I was kind of.
Yes, you take these minutes. At the end of the year, we'll get to you.
You buy cookie dough for me?
Buy cookie dough?
What's it called? Yes.
Maybe.
Probably a fundraiser. No. Like, I'm gonna get the rest of it. She actually just makes cookies.